In previous videos, we've been looking at how to design your research project, from putting together the request for proposal if you're having someone else create the research project, to a research request to get your boss, your stakeholders to approve it, from the proposal itself in terms of what does the actual research data collection analysis look like, to actually doing the analysis, doing the collection, right? Doing the collection, which is designing that survey, handing it out, or creating a focus group and leading those discussions. So what we want to look at here is, how do you collect your sample? How do you get your participants? How do you decide how many people are involved in your sample? So let's start by first just defining sampling. So sampling is the process of obtaining info from, and this is going to be from a subset of our population. So we need to know what it means to be a population. Well, a population is the entire group of elements about whom information is needed. So perhaps we have a veterinary clinic and we see 12,000 animals a year. We want to find out more from our customer base. The entire population we're interested in is the customers who have animals at our veterinary clinic. So our population is going to be those families of those 12,000 animals. Now, our sample is a subset of that. And so we could, for example, survey 120 of the family members of those 12,000 animals. If we are going to collect information from everyone in the population, then we have what is called a census. So a census is the collection of data obtained from or about every member of the population. Okay. So, for example, we do a census about every 10 years to collect information about the entire population of Canada. And so every individual in Canada is expected to provide some basic information about their household. In this case, we're getting information from everyone. Well, the Canadian census, the last Canadian census that was held, let's see here. The last Canadian census that was held, it cost, in 2016, it was $715 million. Okay, so the next census in Canada will be in 2026, so just 2 years from now. So you can see how expensive it is, $715 million. So the downside to a census is it's very costly to try to collect information from everyone. It can be very time consuming to try to get a hold of everybody. The benefit is that you get all the information you need because you have everyone involved in your study. Well, because it can be cost prohibitive, we can't afford to talk to everyone, and very time consuming, we don't have time to get a hold of everybody. We then want instead a sample. And so when we talk about a sample, we are talking about that subset of the population. So our sample is a subset of elements about whom info is needed. So we need to figure out who this sample is that we're going to collect. The challenge we're going to have is that it's not going to be as accurate as the census, and we would like it to be as accurate as possible. So that's why we have a probability sample. That's going to be a more accurate sample than a non-probability sample. But a probability sample, as we're going to look at, can be more expensive to obtain, can be more time consuming. And depending on who that population of interest is, it may be just impossible to obtain one. So we ideally want a sample that is truly representative of the population. But because we need people to give informed consent to choose to participate, we will have people who choose not to. And so remember, we talked about non-response bias. Who are those individuals who are choosing not to participate? That non-response bias means that our sample no longer represents all the elements or characteristics we're looking for in the population. There's a particular group who's choosing not to engage. So that non-response bias makes the sample not match the population. Also, depending on how we do our sampling method, how we select people, that also might cause that sample to not match the population that we care about. So a census would be ideal. Talk to everybody who has the information you need, but it is very expensive to do so. So we collect a sample. So how do we develop a sampling plan? We need to first define that population of interest, choose a data collection method, identify a sampling frame, select a sampling method, determine the appropriate sample size, and then develop procedures for selecting that sample. Okay, and then execute it. So we're going to be going through these steps in our next couple videos.